Last Sunday, I had the privilege of seeing Superman. Some of you may know, some of you may not know. This is the 2025 James Gunn directed take on Superman. If you have not seen the movie, spoilers. Also, before I hop into this, I am well aware of the Snyderverse versus the new DECU. Or DCU, I forget, whatever you want to call it. Honorable mention, Henry Cavill, love him as Superman. Personally, for me, was a little bit too dark. So when I finally got to see a much lighter and brighter and colorful Superman take the stage, I was all for it. I forget names, but the actor for Superman was incredible. Lois Lane was amazing. She wasn't like this damsel in distress. There was actually a good connection between Lois Lane and Superman and their relationship. There was more depth to both of their characters. Since this is the first movie, I believe, of the DCU, I personally, if I was a director, would find it difficult to weave in new characters to fit into the universe. But James Gunn was able to do such, and he did it so beautifully. Hot girl. Awesome. Wish she could have been utilized a little bit more in the movie. Guy Gardner, Green Lantern. Now, I'm not too familiar with the Green Lantern comics, but I also know enough to know that whoever played Guy Gardner, top tier. Wish he could have been used a little bit more as well. Now, Mr. Terrific. I knew nothing about Mr. Terrific and his character going into this film. Before I saw the film, I was doing some background research about his character and figuring out just who Mr. Terrific is as a superhero. Apparently, there's supposed to be some TV show for Mr. Terrific. Please do that. Me personally, I'm glad that he was utilized more than the other two. That's just me personally. But these three, I would love to see again. I also know that they're in the process of making a Green Lanterns TV show with Jon Stewart, so I'm sure we're going to see Guy Gardner again. For the story, I thought the story was well done. This is not one of those comic book movies where they have to redo Superman's origin story because we already know Superman's origin. They wasted no time. They threw you straight into the action. And I honestly loved that. I don't believe there was one single dull moment in this film. I personally love a Superman that is down to earth, that is grounded, and that shows more, showing more of his human side. I don't like the Superman that they show is supposed to be some sort of god and is shooting, laser heat vision and destroying, collapsing buildings. Like, that is not hopeful. So I really love how they really showed in this movie that Superman is a sense of hope and he is one for humanity. Now, my one little issue is this guy right here. Lex Luthor took the show. He was fantastic. Different iteration of Lex Luthor. I'm used to the Super Friends, destroy Superman type of Lex Luthor. But I love this take. He shows how witty he is, how smart he is. He is a great supervillain, and I feel like this is the start for them setting up what he's going to do in the future. And I know it's going to be great. I know he's going to be a great supervillain. Like, it's that last scene where he's looking at Superman and he's like, okay, I see how it is. Catch you next time. But my one issue, let's get to the issue at hand. James Gunn, known for directing Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy. Love the Guardians. I know that their whole thing is that it's an action, adventure, space superhero movie with a lot of comedy. And I mean a lot. So when it came to James Gunn directing Superman, what I was really, really concerned about was his use of comedy in this movie. I personally, going into this film, was concerned with the amount of jokes. My problem was that I did not want this to turn into a Guardians of the Galaxy film. I feel like Lex Luthor is a deep and dark supervillain. I felt like there were certain moments where there were some lighter moments, but there were certain moments that were dark. But the lighter moments overshadowed a lot of the darker moments. And I think the audience that I saw with was part of the problem. It was a very mixed audience I saw with, by the way. Lots of younger people, kids, teenagers, and then you have adults and I think some seniors. So when it came to Superman and Lex Luthor, I'm not really expecting Lex to crack as many jokes as I thought he was going to. For instance, there's a scene where Lex is literally trying to get to Superman. He's in the void, the realm. He grabs somebody that Superman knows and he clocks him in the head and he's dead. And for a moment in the background, I hear a girl go, "Oh!" And when she said that, I was like, yes, finally. Because I felt like throughout some of the movie, there were lighter moments. And I was like, there needs to be an action for Lex to do that just shows people that he's not one to mess with. And then 2 seconds later, he says, "Oh, I wonder who I'm going to kill next. Is it going to be Clark Kent?" And everybody starts laughing. And I'm like, I think that overshadowed a dark moment for Lex Luthor. So that is one of many examples. But I think I was really worried about the tonal shift. I feel like there should have been 50% darker moments, 50% lighter moments. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I kind of like the best of both worlds. There were certain things in Man of Steel that I really, really love, but I think they could have done a little bit lighter. And I think for this film, it's kind of vice versa. There's a lot of lighter tone in this film, but I feel like there could have been some darker moments. Can't forget about Crypto. Crypto was the takeaway. I love how they used him as comic relief. That was perfect. The action scenes were incredible. I mean, we're getting scenes of like Superman doing a 360, shooting everybody down with his laser heat vision. You get a scene where he's flying up and he clocks somebody in the mouth and his tooth is flying out. And they show a lot of his powers. I believe the only power they didn't really use was his X-ray vision, which they might use in the next film. Supergirl was a cool surprise. I'm just worried on how they're going to go about doing her film, but that's going to be whenever that happens. But overall, Superman was wonderful. I know I will definitely see it again. And it was just good to see a different iteration of Superman, like straight from the comics. Definitely go see this film with your friends and family. It is a family movie. Everybody's gonna love it. Because even if you feel like you don't know Superman, I feel like this movie does a great job of showing people what Superman is truly about. I'm giving this movie a 7.5 out of 10. Also in the comments, let me know what you thought about this movie. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next video.